And here we are with the Detroit Lions news, and we have our co-host. It's just myself, Darcy Maville, the real deal Maville.
He keeps playing like that and forcing all these turnovers. I think he could maybe get his name in the conversation for defensive rookie of the year. I don't think that's crazy to say.
Joseph's really been great. 10 tackles, 2 interceptions.
At the end of the day, they escaped with a win, and you got to be happy about that.
Detroit Lions in the victory yesterday over Chicago.
You got to minimize the big plays, and I think we did that today.
Questions? I think we got a little bit of delay here, but I've got a few questions for the players. And what we're going to try to do today is get a little bit of a round robin in. So we'll ask some questions to the players, give you guys some time to give us, your opinions and your professional opinions at that. And, comes from a long line of service in the professional league of the NFL. So we definitely love to hear what you guys have to say. So my first question, kind of a statement in the beginning is, James Houston, it was nothing short of explosive when he got his chance this year. He's 4 sacks in 3 games. He's broke the Lions rookie record. He ended the Vikings first drive or the final drive in the first half. Then Hutchinson with a couple of sacks today, ending the Vikings drive early in the 4th. Both of these two combined played very solid the last 4 weeks. Question is, have the Lions, creating the 4 sacks today, 2 fumbles, and only allowing 22 yards rushing on the defense today, why is the Lions rushing defense working so well right now? And have the Lions found a pass rushing duo that could become one of the best in the league moving forward? Glover?
Well, I don't think you want to jump to the best in the league right now. I think you want to just let guys be what they are. I mean, James Houston has 4 sacks, and that's great. He's been playing phenomenal and got inserted into the Lions defense, and you instantly seen, what he can do. Him being on the other side of Aiden allows both of those guys to be able to make plays, take pressure off each other. They slide the O-line one way. Then the other guy gets a single, and you expect those guys to win those matchups. And so you've seen Aiden get sacks today. You've seen Houston get a sack today. So they're playing complementary football with each other on the defensive side of the ball. So that's good. It's going to take some time. Finish off this year strong. Come back next year before I think you can say they're top duos in the league. But they are looking really, 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 really good. But I think when you talk about the Lions defense, when you play a lot of man coverage, which the Lions play a lot of man coverage, when you play a lot of man coverage, then you can go 8 men in the box. When you go 8 men in the box, well, now you always have an unblocked defender for the most part in the run game. And so they've put the pressure, on the secondary, and Jeff Okudah has played pretty good throughout the year. And so when you can play man-to-man and limit some of the big plays in the pass game, it allows you to be able to stop the run. And I think today what they did, they felt like, hey, we got to make sure that we shut everybody else down. Justin Jefferson may go for 200 yards. That's okay. We can't let Dalvin Cook go for 100 yards in the run game. We can't let Adam Thielen go for 80 yards in the passing game. We can't let Osgood get off and get 65 yards. Let Justin Jefferson, hey, he's going to be singled up sometime. He's going to be doubled sometime. He's going to have a chance to make some plays, and he made plays. They kept him out of the end zone, and then Dalvin Cook was a non-factor. Adam Thielen was a non-factor. Yeah, he had the one little touchdown, but he's a non-factor, and you can live with that. Yeah, you want to see him make more plays against Justin Jefferson, but at the end of the day, you go all out, you stop the run, eliminate Dalvin Cook, make it a one-person type of thing, Kirk Cousins looking for Justin Jefferson every play, and you find a way to get a couple sacks and make a couple plays, and you win the game.
Awesome. Mark, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I think it's a confidence thing that's just kind of coming, and Glover can attest to it. The team, all of a sudden you start to turn, you turn over a leaf, and you start to, there wasn't one game that I ever played in college or anywhere in the pros that I ever not knew what the point spread or having a general idea if we were favored or not. And I think Detroit is now just doing what they're expected to do. They were supposed to win today and they won. And they're delivering on the things that they're supposed to do finally. And maybe it's too late, maybe it's not. They're right at that 50-50 point, and it depends on what other people do in the league right now. I think Houston's arrived. He's done pretty well. Hutchinson's been good right from the beginning. He's got 7 or 8 sacks on the season. I agree with Glover on that, though. They're not on a level of the Bosa's and some of the other guys, the real good pass rushers, Crosby and guys like that around the league. They're not there yet. And it's going to take some time for that. But I think the team is just gelling and just doing what they're supposed to do. And today they were supposed to win. They did that. I like what they're doing on the back end. Jefferson went off on them, but like Glover said, it didn't really matter that much. Thielen had the touchdown, and Hockenson didn't hurt him that badly. So it's a good win. You're one win away from being 500. And it's the defense is starting to gel a little bit, and one of the reasons why, let's face it, guys, football is all depends on the other side of the ball, and it's because Goff is playing so well, and that when he's playing well, it takes the stress off your defense, and that's exactly what's happening right now.
Awesome, thank you for that, Mark. Jeremy, who's our panelist to piggyback on this question? Or Darcy?
You're muted.
Really quick, I have a question here for Glover Quin, and he says, Glover, what's your professional opinion on the Curbinator?
Oh, I mean, I like what Kirby's doing. I was talking on the on my podcast earlier today, and I was just saying, when you have a knack for being around the ball, good things generally happen. You can't recover a fumble if you're not around the ball. You can't catch tip passes or interceptions if you're not around the ball. And he has a knack for being around the football. And today, that play with Dalvin Cook happens in the backfield. But the safety is the one that's recovering the ball. That means he's seeing it. He's seeing what's happening. He's getting to the ball. And then he has the ball skills to be able to catch the ball, scoop the ball. People don't understand how hard it is to scoop a football running full speed in an NFL game. It is not as easy as people think, but he has the ability to be able to do that. We've seen him catch interceptions. He's made plays. So he has a knack for making big plays. We've seen a couple of bad games, but he's a young guy. He's going to have those moments. But if he continue to work, I like what he's doing. I like the fact that he is someone that turns the ball over. When they inserted him into the lineup and he started playing more, they've been going on a turnover tear, starting from the Green Bay game when he had the 2 interceptions. And ever since then, it's been contagious. Turnovers each and every week. But on the flip side, the offense hasn't been turning the ball over. So when you can win a turnover battle week in and week out, you're going to give yourself a chance to win the game. So I like what Kirby is doing. I think he has a bright future if he can stay healthy.
Awesome.
And I have one more question from Glover from the comments here. It says, Glover, who was the toughest receiver you ever played against, and who did you model your game after?
Man, we talked about, well, I ain't going to say we talked about this. I don't know who the toughest receiver I played against. When you play in the NFL, all these guys are good, man. And everybody's good in different reasons. When I was in Houston, we played against Detroit, and, Calvin Johnson was there. When I was in, playing against Larry Fitzgerald, playing against, Odell Beckham, Antonio Brown, even, the little guys, Deshaun Jackson, Julian, all these guys are good. And they're good for different reasons. I was the type of person, the bigger receivers didn't really bother me that much. Larry Fitzgerald didn't bother me as much because I can get my hands on him. And I was a physical corner, physical guy. Those guys didn't bother me. It was the little smaller, quick, fast guys that I couldn't get my hands on that were hard to cover. So if I sit here and say, Andrew Hawkins or, Julian Edelman or Deshaun Jackson was some of the tougher guys for me to defend, everybody be like, oh, really? Yeah, because of my style and my body and how I played. But all those guys are good for how they play the game. And, it's the NFL, man. Everybody's good. But who did I model my game after? I modeled my game after me. I didn't really have any one person because I was just, I don't know, I didn't feel like I was as fast or as athletic as so many of the defensive backs that we see and we know. I really had to rely on being physical and being smart. That was my biggest thing, just trying to be the smartest player on the field, knowing where the offense was going before they was going, knowing what the receivers and the tight ends were going to do, looking at them, reading their body language, looking at their eyes, trying to see if I can figure out any little thing. So I don't know exactly who I modeled my game after. I just watched a lot of good football players and tried to be the best that I could be.
All right. And Will Vogel replied, "Thank you, Glover. Much respect. Huge fan of yours."
Appreciate
And Jameson Hennessy says, "Thank you for your time, effort, and leadership when you played here, Glover."
Absolutely.
Appreciate you guys.
I am so glad we do not have the Matt Patricia era here anymore. I know that was a big part. A big part of why you left and was gone. He was a big part of that, along with quite a few other star players that was good coming out of that former regime.
They just destroyed
it was
that
bad.
team.
Yeah.
Hey, Will, you got your questions?
Yep. So those are all great answers, guys. Thank you. Are we going to take a panel question now from Sam or David or anybody else?
Absolutely, Sam. Go ahead.
Yeah, sure. So, Glover, being a safety yourself, and while we were just on the topic of Kirby Joseph, I wanted to ask, he is a converted corner, right? And so you talked about the ball skills that he naturally has. He's always around the ball making plays. But, again, being a converted corner and then switching over to safety his senior year of college and now being such a high, top 100 pick, how much of his game will evolve as he learns through veteran safeties like Deshaun Elliott, like Tracy Walker, who have been in the league for a couple years and have shown the ability to make plays, especially with high IQ ball?
I mean, he'll evolve a lot. The thing about playing safety in the NFL, the most important thing about playing safety in the NFL is can you tackle? And one thing about tackling is being willing to tackle. So converting from a corner to a safety, you have to have some kind of physical mindset to want to tackle people. You can catch an interception and you can be around the ball, but you're going to have way more opportunities to tackle somebody than you're going to have to intercept the football. So that's one of the biggest things, and he's willing to do that. He'll throw his body in there. He'll try to do those things. So as he learns the game, as he gets more reps, when you're a corner and you can play safety, you have most of the times corners' ball skills are better than safeties. So if you can have the ball skills of a corner, but have the physical ability to be able to play safety, now you can be a cover safety in today's NFL. It's not the same NFL as it was back in the days when you wanted the big physical bruiser type of guys. You want guys who can cover, who can match up in the slots, who can cover these tight ends, who can cover these running backs out the backfield. You want guys that can do a lot of different things for you and make plays. That's what it's about. It's about making plays, getting turnovers and things like that. And so as he learns, gets more reps, he'll see things and his ability will be able to, show more, because not only will he just be playing with his ability, he'll be playing with his mind and his experience, and he'll see things a whole lot faster, a whole lot quicker, and be able to make a whole lot more plays.
Awesome. So my
Great
next
response.
question. So my next question for the Lions pros here is, our offense is playing hot right now. Some of the best football we've seen in quite a long time. Today, the O-line kept Goff's jersey pretty clean. No sacks given up. 330 yards passing through the air, 134 yards on the ground. What is working for this offense in 2022 that is such a drastic turnaround from 2021? We're averaging more than 7 points per game over last year. So what's our big turnaround? What's working for us?
I think the big turnaround right now would be that the play. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
In the beginning of the year, it was a tale of two halves. The offense would show up or the defense wouldn't show. Now we're playing Dan Campbell style trench running, hitting the gaps, blocking, tackling. We're playing more of a complete game, and you're seeing it. We're not having to go for it more on fourth downs. We're playing consistent football. We run for 134 yards. We shut them down. Like Glover and Mark will tell you, the first thing you need to do, your game plan is to shut down the run. And they do that. They've been doing that the last 2 weeks. They did that against Saquon. They're doing their job. And now it's a complete game. I'm very excited to talk about it, guys. Mark?
The play action's working. Goff is in the zone right now. The play that you want to look at that really worked today was the fake. I think it was a fake pitch out on Reynolds' touchdown and the quick slant. I mean, that's just the whole defense slid to their right, and Goff threw back to his right as they were sliding to the right. And it was like, my gosh, it just opened up, and that's what's working. And then he said before this game, he said he's playing the best football of his career, and he's really believing that. On the first touchdown, the long one, the 41-yarder to Chark, and Chark, it was really fantastic. I mean, it was a great throw. He read the coverage right away. He's seeing the defenses. One of the things that you look for in a quarterback, and Mahomes does it by just a snap of a finger. They read the safety so well. Glover will tell you that. Josh Allen does that so well. Brady's done it well for years. He's not doing it as well anymore. They just read the coverages so well. And that right now, Jared Goff is reading the defenses as well as anybody in the league. And that's become a second neck for him. And he's just hit the zone. And when that is happening, you get the play action is going to work. And that's what's happening here. And like you mentioned, Darcy, the defense and the offense are actually putting it together for a change, which is great. But, football is all related. It's all relative. Your offense is as good as what your defense is doing and vice versa. And everybody knows that. It's the ultimate team game. But you have certain individuals that are supposed to be rising to the occasion that are rising to the occasion now. Jameson Williams gets in the game and, scores that touchdown right away. Of course, it was a broken coverage. Harrison Smith is not in there, which hurt Minnesota, but it is what it is. They're playing without their center, Bradbury, today. One of the things I learned about being in the NFL, the most important position on the field other than quarterback is free safety and center. So that's just my opinion. But, it's all interrelated here. The touchdown to Reynolds should have told you right there what's going on. And it's all interrelated, and it's going really well. And they're confident now, and that's the key. You win 5 out of 6 in this league, and Glover will tell you, you're feeling really good about yourself, and the ball starts to bounce your way. And that's what's happened with this team right now. And I'm telling you what, I watched that Buffalo-New York Jets game today, as well as the Lions game, because Detroit plays the Jets next week. Let me just tell you something about that Jet team. From what I saw as a former player of what I saw, that is not a physical football team. That is a football team. I sat and watched that for 3 hours. After every play, a player is getting up and whining and screaming and ouch and ooch and ooey and ooey. Oh, my God. I would go after these guys and out-physical these guys. They're a finesse group. They're decent. The new quarterback's okay. But, man, they can be had. They can be had. I have never seen more whining in an NFL game all year long than I saw with the New York Jets today. After every play, there was a guy hurt or injured or running to the sideline or ouching his way to the side. I'm sorry to be so outspoken, but that team, if Detroit can't lose to that team, I'm sorry. They are the weakest group that I've seen this year cohesively, other than C.J. Mosley.
Wow.
Other than C.J. Mosley. I take him out of that.
Statement.
And I'll take him out of that. So I'm on the show to be outspoken. I'm not here to hold back. So, and that's the way I really feel. And I was right because Buffalo kicked the shit out of them. So,
well, I can piggyback off of that, Mark. When you play complete football games, you earn wins. Games like that don't come very often, but when they do, it matters most. We really played we really played well through the trenches, and we showed that we can really play with the best of them. And going into next week against the New York Jets, we got to bring the same energy, bring the same attitude, and play a game that's really complete. Every other team does it, so why can't we? I'm sure we could. And the Jets are the Jets. I think we can do our business and handle it the way we handled it today.
Absolutely.
Good point.
David.
Yeah, David.
David hasn't said very much.
All right.
And he's very outspoken.
I mean, getting back to the original question about why the offense is performing so well, I mean, let's just call it for what it freaking is here. Let's just do a side-by-side comparison of this year versus last year. We've had it talked about with Sheila. We've had it talked about with everybody. Last year, people want to talk about, oh, well, that was the start of the rebuild per se. No, that was not the start of the rebuild. That was a tear down. We had literally had to scrap, scrape, destroy everything that was known Quin Trisha. We had to completely cut that cancer out, and we had to completely start over. Well, let's take a look at what Jared Goff had to throw to last year. Most of the guys he had to throw to, again, until Amon-Ra St. Brown came around and we picked up Josh Reynolds off the waiver wire, I'm sorry to say it, most of them should not be starting wide receivers. I mean, I love Khalif Raymond. He's a great punt returner, and he comes through in the clutch, but it's like, is this guy supposed to be our starting wide receiver? No, but that's who Jared Goff had to throw to last year. And then, again, you talk about the injury factors. DeAndre Swift dealt with injuries last year like he's this year, but he's been able to play through them a lot better. You take a look at the fact that the offensive line was banged up last year. I think we had 5, 6, 7 different starting rotations last year. This year it's been more consistent. But yet again, we still have not seen the full bevy of the 5 starters in the entire time Goff has been here. And then I know Jeremy's going to go after this one, but let's just call it for what it is. Anthony Lynn couldn't coach an offensive game plan to save his life last year. We saw the same damn tight end screen ran over and over and over again last year. It was literally like putting it on rewind every damn game. Ben Johnson is literally freaking coaching laps around Anthony Lynn in terms of how you can get an offense to actually work. The Lions have completely bought into Ben Johnson's offensive scheme. It's literally, again, let's just take it for what it is this year. The Lions have scored 30-plus points in 7 games. That leads the league, bar none. They've also put up 240 burgers this year. So when you take a look at what you have this year versus last year, you have better coaching, you have better personnel, you have better playmakers, and, I mean, you just got to take it all the way back to the quarterback. Jared Goff is playing at a level that we haven't seen him play since that 2018 year when he went to the Super Bowl. Now, I'm not saying the Lions are going to the Super Bowl, so don't anybody think that's where I'm going with this. I'm just simply saying Jared Goff is playing at a level that is very similar to that in terms of production, in terms of stats, in terms of what we're seeing on the field. So to answer that question, I think that is why this Lions offense is able to produce and actually put up the numbers and the points that we're seeing week in and week out the last couple of weeks. That's my answer.
All right.
We'll go with Sam. Hang on. Oh. We'll go with Sam, and then you read your comments and go.
Wanted to piggyback off of that because he specifically mentioned me, but that's okay.
Okay, you go. Go for it, and then Sam.
You're absolutely right, David. Anthony Lynn, he looked like he was coaching for a team that had Tyrod Taylor, and that's not Goff's strengths. Goff's strengths is play action passing, hitting wide receivers with separation, which through the first 10 weeks, because of the poor play calling, the Lions were dead last in wide receiver separation. Everybody that we expected to be on the roster was either hurt or cut at the beginning of the season. Quintez Cephas, who was starting to emerge as a good target because he was the most solid target that Goff had in Lynn's offense until he got hurt versus the Vikings. After that, the passing game disappeared, and anybody that expected an offense that can't pass the ball and could barely run the ball because Swift and Williams was going down every other game or every other play, it's hard to make anything happen.
Hard to make plays when your playmakers aren't on the field.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to comment too much because we have talked about this subject quite a bit now, but I will say that there is such a mental side of the game. We've talked about this on our show when Mark came on because we talked about confidence leading to wins and also playing simply playing to win, playing hard can sometimes cause you to lose games because you're overthinking a lot of different stuff. And I think right now with Detroit, there's chemistry being created that it was hard to create last season because of the fact that there was such a cycle of receivers coming in, and the coaching staff was brand new. The quarterback situation was a brand new situation. It's a tough adjustment. Now there's been a year and a half to settle in, to find the tools, to work with this playbook, and so they've had weapons on this roster. They have the best O line in football, or one of the best O lines in football. They're simply just executing, and that's also a different thing compared to the beginning of the season when a lot of the times they were coming up short because they couldn't. There would be one cog in the whole machine that would go wrong, and that causes a breakdown, especially on offense when you need almost everything to go right to execute every single play.
Absolutely. Great answers. And Mr. Glover Quin, would you like to piggyback off of any of that?
I mean, I think everybody's saying really good points about what the Lions are doing, where they are offensively. Jared Goff, having better coaching, better playmakers this year, another year in the system. All those different things go into playing well, and like Mark said, the confidence. When you start winning games and you can win multiple games in a row, you just start to feel better. You start to prepare better. You just go into a game. It's a difference when you go into a game and you expect to win, or when you go into a game and you're hoping that the ball goes right early, so you kind of stay in the game and try to win, right? So there's a big difference in all those different things. You know what I'm saying? When you expect to win the game, and today they were favored to beat the Vikings, and I feel like they knew that they could beat the Vikings. They should have beat the Vikings the first time they played. But they suffered a lot of injuries in that game. If you remember back to that, Amon didn't play a great game. He got hurt. That's the game he hurt his ankle, broke his eight catch game streak. That's the game I think we lost Tracy Walker. That's the game that DeAndre Swift was hurt. Like, we lost a lot of guys in that first Minnesota game, and we still should have won. So I think they knew that we could beat Minnesota, and they came out and they played a great game. But the confidence that these guys have right now, Jared Goff looks like a guy that's very confident in his system. He's very confident in his targets. The guys that he's targeting, yes, Amon-Ra St. Brown is probably the top guy, but they don't have any guys that you would look at nationally, not locally, but nationally, like the worldwide, nationally, as like a superstar. But as a group, they play well. You know what I'm saying? Getting Jameson Williams into the action today, early in the game with a deep touchdown. DJ Chark coming back with another touchdown. Josh Reynolds getting a touchdown. Amon didn't get in the end zone, but just catching 6 catches over 60 or 70 yards. That's averaging a first down every single catch. So being able to be a good third down blanket, for the quarterback, easy throws, convert first down, stay on the field, keep the offense out there, and the other guys get touchdowns. You know what I'm saying? So to have 3 guys from the receiving corps, Josh Reynolds, DJ Chark, and Jameson Williams get touchdowns, that's huge. So Jared Goff is confident in what he's seeing. He's reading it well, like it was mentioned earlier. He's throwing the ball confidently. He loves the running game that they have with Jamal Williams and DeAndre Swift. The offensive line was a big thing going into the season. Just how big they were, how physical they were, and then we seen that they can even catch passes today with Penei Sewell catching a pass out in the flats. So those guys are rolling offensively. Like you said, Ben Johnson, so much more that he's doing, getting everybody involved than what Anthony Lynn was doing last year. And then defensively, they're doing enough to hold up. And they've played so much man-to-man coverage. So they're Jeff Okudah, I know he won't get it, but Jeff Okudah's emergence as a decent to good number 1 corner gives you the ability to say, okay, we can go man and stop the run. And when you can do that, you can take away the run game. So you see them be able to take away Saquon Barkley, take away Dalvin Cook. When you can do that, you can live with a couple plays in the passing game. if you can take away the run game. And so Jeff Okudah's emergence on the offensive side, on the defensive side, and then you throw in Houston and Hutchinson getting after the quarterback. Those guys are playing well right now. They're confident right now. They had their injuries early. And when you look at over the course of history, this is the time that you want to be playing well.
Absolutely.
Their playoff, their playoffs has started. And this is the time that you want to be playing well. You go all the way back to the 2007 New York Giants. I think they were 9-17, but they had to win the last 3 or 4 games just to make the playoffs. So their playoffs started early. They were playing meaningful football games in December to get a chance to go to the playoffs. And they just rode their hot streak all the way to the Super Bowl and beat the 17-0 New England Patriots that hadn't even lost a game. So, like it was mentioned earlier, I'm not saying that the Lions are going to go to the Super Bowl, but I think when you look at the course of history, you want to be playing your best football at this time. Everybody goes through injuries at some point, and that's what scares me about the Philadelphia Eagles because they've been pretty solid all year. But we all know that this is the National Football League and things happen. So you will hate for their injuries and their things to start to happen right now. The Lions dealt with theirs early. They weathered the storm. Yes, they lost some games. But they won the right games, and now they have a chance being that now they're healthy. Their bodies is in season shape, right? They've played plenty of games, plenty of reps. They're in shape now to play, and they're playing their best football in December. So these next 4 games, I wouldn't be surprised if the Lions run the table and get to 10-7 and be in the playoffs.
Well, that would be an incredible feat to happen for the Lions this season. Glover, I just have one other question for you. You guys have pretty much answered everything that I put together today, so it's pretty amazing. Kind of piggybacking off of Okudah's meteoric rise this season, do you feel that the Lions need to add another corner, heading into next season, given the fact that Okudah's contract is going to be coming up in end of 2023? Walker took a nasty injury this year. Granted, he plays the back end. But Amani, not sure what happened to him this year. So what's your feelings on the Lions taking another corner in the next draft or picking someone up in the offseason to continue to strengthen that part of our defense for 2023?
Well, I'm a defensive back, so I'm going to be the first one to say, and I'm sure every offensive line coach, I'm sure every defensive line coach, I'm sure every receiver coach would say the same exact thing that I'm going to say right now. So as a defensive back, I'm going to say you can never have too many good defensive backs. Point blank, period, D end. So if a corner is what they feel like they need to go to the next level, which I do feel like they need another corner on the opposite side of Jeff Okudah. Mike Hughes is not an outside corner. He's made his bread. He's made his money in the NFL as a nickel corner starting back in Minnesota, actually. So I do think they need someone that's on the other side. They thought Amani was the guy coming off a Pro Bowl or alternate or whatever he was last year, caught 6 interceptions. But he just hasn't been the same guy this year. I saw it back in training camp. I went out there and watched those guys. And when I left there, I didn't want to make any comments on it because I had only saw a couple of days of practice. But I kept mentioning that I saw some things that I really didn't like. And then those things kept happening throughout the season. And now Amani hasn't even been in the starting. He hasn't been playing. And then he get in the game today. And I'm just like, my goodness. I'm glad he was only out there for a limited time because it was like they were going right after him when he was in the game. So I definitely think that if the opportunity is there, they should add a corner. But I think they need, honestly, I think what those guys need in Detroit is they need a good young veteran, right? And I know that's probably what an oxymoron, what they call it when you say a young veteran.
You're
but I
talking
mean,
about
like
a young guy with experience.
You're talking like a guy that's been good. but he's going into his second contract. Somebody they're
Right.
willing to pay some money for, to have him here for a while, to actually be a leader that can actually provide good play at the same time, instead of a guy that's at the tail end of his career and can't do anything.
Right. They need someone that has been successful in this league. He understands how to play. He understands how to prepare. Because if you look at it, a lot of those guys in the line secondary right now, who have they had to learn from? When Jeff Okudah got there, they traded Darius Slay. He wasn't there with Jeff Okudah.
Right.
So what corner has Jeff Okudah? What veteran corner has Jeff Okudah had to learn from? When Marcus Trufant, when Trufant went there, he wasn't going there to be a leader. He was going there to try to get some money. 1-year deal. I'm just trying to play and whatever, right? What corner has been there for Jeff Okudah to say, I'm going to take you under my wing and I'm going to teach you how to be a great player. You got great ability. I need to teach you how to play the game.
Absolutely.
When you look at even when you look at Tracy Walker, right?
Yeah.
I had 1 year with Tracy, and then Quandre got traded the next year.
Mm-hmm.
So for the most part, Tracy has been trying to figure it out on his own.
And doing decent at it with natural talent and what he's learned just by playing.
Right.
It's
so
the
at the
same
end
thing
of the
with
day,
Jeff Okudah.
yeah. So you need to get a young guy who's, like they said, is going into their second contract, which would be, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but it would be equivalent to what they got when they got me. I was a 23-year-old rookie, so I did my full time in college. I played my full 4 years in Houston, and then when I came to Detroit, I was a 27, probably 28-year-old guy going into my second contract, and I had played football, so I was that guy to be able to take. They drafted Darius Slay. They signed me in April in free agency, and they drafted Darius Slay right afterwards. And I was the guy to be able to take Darius Slay under my wing and teach him how to be a pro. I was the guy that was able to help Quandre Diggs, teach him how to be a pro. And yeah, there were other guys there. Rasheem Mathis. We had a good group. James Ahedebo. We had a good group. But you need those guys that are young enough to continue to play with you, but experienced enough to teach you how to be a pro. And I don't know if any of those guys in the secondary has had that consistently. So what we're seeing now is, in my opinion, really only a tip of what they could potentially be if they just have someone that can teach them the game. Not from a player not from a coach's standpoint, but from a player standpoint. Because the coach is going to say one thing. The player is going to tell you, hey, man, this is how this is going to play out in the game. Coach saying it's going to be like this. But in the game, it's going to be like this. In the game, it's going to be 80,000 people screaming. So you're going to have to understand my body. You need to learn my body language. My signal. Like when you can't hear me talking to you. So you got to know what I'm thinking just by seeing my body.
Right.
Those are things that the coach can't really teach you. That's player to player being in the fire with those guys. And I think they need that. So I wouldn't say necessarily they need to use the first round pick to get a good corner. They need to use free agency money to go and sign a good guy. They don't have to be the top guy. I wasn't the top safety when I came out, and I was a free agent. But I fit what the Detroit Lions needed at that time. So
Absolutely.
I'm not saying you got to go spend $25 million a year for a corner or a safety. But you need to find that guy that you respect, that you think is smart, a great leader, got good experience, has been on some good football teams, understand what it takes, how to play the game, and get him in the room with those young guys.
I kind of said that when we drafted Okuda, that it would have made more sense to draft Okuda if we had Darius Slay here, because without Darius Slay here, he had a coaching staff that couldn't develop Polaroid film, let alone a player.
Right.
So,
well, I also, if I could put one thing in here, I listened to something that GQ said, and it definitely hit something right on the head. He's talking about the difference between coaches and players. Well, the great thing about the Lions is they have coaches who were players, so they can talk both ways. They're like, listen, this is what it's like to be a coach, but since I played the game, I can also tell you what it's going to be like in the game. And Aaron Glenn, being a former cornerback, let's just call it for what it is. I'm pretty confident that Aaron Glenn, having that experience from the NFL, has greatly helped freaking Jeff Okuda's development this year from what we have seen. Also, the fact that he's been able to stay healthy, also a great help to him being able to come further along.
Right. And the thing, hold on a second. The thing that I would say about that, you're absolutely right. The thing that we have to be careful of is the connection, though, between the players and the coaches. And what I mean is this right here. Jeff Okuda don't know Aaron Glenn as a football player. I'm gonna be honest with you. He doesn't know. He never watched Aaron Glenn as a football player. Now, the things that Aaron Glenn could tell him will help him. But as a player, you feel like Aaron Glenn played in a time that's not like your time. So you don't disregard what Aaron Glenn says. Aaron Glenn brings things to the table, but that veteran corner that has some experience can link the connection between the old school and the new school. Because sometimes you get these new school guys and they don't really respect old school guys because the game is different.
Fact.
What you used to do back in the days, AG, is not like that these days. It's different. So when you have that veteran guy that's young enough to be able to bridge the gap, they can take what AG is saying and make it relatable to how Jeff Okuda understands it.
That was one of the things in the 2021 offseason when we didn't have a lot of money and we were signing these prove-it players. There was a prove-it player I wanted to grab because he played on a defense that had a decent secondary. He may not have been a great player, but he played on a good defense, and that would have helped the maturation of Amani Oruwariye and Jeff Okuda. Trey Waynes from Minnesota, who played under Mike Zimmer, who's a great defensive coach. He just couldn't coach offense to save his butt. I would have liked to have seen him here because we could have had him for as cheap as he went on the road for. He signed for, what was it, $1.8 million? We had that.
Right. But I think, and I'm not a GM. I just know how I would be if I was a GM. Because I don't want to say this to be whatever, but I've been a GM on Madden a couple of times back in the days trying to assemble different teams and put guys together. And this is what I'm saying. You want guys that understand how to fill the role and how to teach the role. Trey Waynes, great player, but he was a nickel corner for the Minnesota Vikings. So that means he was a role player for them. He was good. He made plays, but he was a role player for them. He was under Xavier Rhodes. He was under the Harrison Smiths. He had guys, I think, over him that just helped him play a role. You need guys that has been the star, but they maybe wasn't a superstar. That know what it's like to be the top guy on a team and of a group. They may not be the top guy in the league, but they know what it's like to lead a group, a secondary.
Or maybe Patrick Peterson.
Well, see, Patrick Peterson would be what you would call the superstar. He was the guy in Arizona. He went to 7-8 Pro Bowls in a row. He was the guy there, right? So he's going to cost a lot of money to bring here. Yeah, true. Depending on what, he's going to cost a lot of money. You need the guy, like I said, like me. I wasn't
my favorite player.
I wasn't a $60 million. I
It's
wasn't a
that simple.
I'm saying I wasn't a $20 million guy a year. But the brain that I had, the experience that I had, the relatability that I had, the teachable things that I could give to these guys is what you wanted. And it
Right.
didn't even cost you that much.
So then,
Gotcha.
would you be in favor of going after a free agent corner like Jonathan Jones or Byron Murphy, who are guys who are playing really well this season and are playing really crucial roles for their teams? Like specifically, Jonathan Jones is on a tear this year for the Patriots, but he's a guy that you can get for under $10 million a year. He's only 29. And he's young, but he also has that experience that would translate really well to an outside corner like Jeff Okudah, who plays with a lot of length and a lot of physicality. And I feel like Byron Murphy, who plays that same kind of role, but he's a little bit younger, maybe doesn't have as much experience in the league as a guy like Jonathan Jones, but a little cheaper. Would you think those are good guys that would fit in this scheme as well to kind of nurture those young corners?
I think those could be possibilities, but I think there's also just being that it's Detroit. Just being that it's Detroit. There's also another caveat that has to go into it. You have to find the right person. You have to find the right guy that's humble enough, that respects the game enough, that's willing to do. Because sometimes you get these guys who on the surface level, they fit the role. But in real life, they feel like they're bigger than Detroit. They big time. I'm from LA. I played for Arizona. I played for the Cowboys. I played for they're big time. So going to Detroit is like a downgrade, right? You get some first round draft picks. Like Aiden Hutchinson loves it in Detroit. He's from there. But you get some of these guys who are not from Detroit. And they get drafted there early. And they just like, bro, I didn't want to come to Detroit. And they tough it out and they try to do the right thing. But deep down inside, they don't even want to be in Detroit because they feel like they're bigger and better than Detroit. So you need to find that guy like an Aiden Hutchinson that wants to be there. Not just because he's from there, because he just loves the opportunity. He loves the challenge. He don't care where it's at.
You say that you said something key right there, and it made me think of one player that was there when you were there that we drafted just before you got there.
Who?
Ndamukong Suh.
Yeah.
You didn't want to be there.
As soon as you said it, said it, that's the name that popped in my head.
Right. And Suh's a great player.
Right.
But he probably could have been more. You see what I'm saying? It's hard. You got to find the right guy. And like I said, I'm not trying to continue to toot my own horn, but I feel like my background and where I came from as a kid, coming from Summit, Mississippi, going to JUCO route, going all the way to Albuquerque, New Mexico, getting drafted as a 4th rounder, I was excited and appreciative of every opportunity that I got. So when Martin Mayhew told me, hey, I want to change the perception, the culture in Detroit, and I want you to be the guy. Okay. 2013, Detroit had just filed bankruptcy a couple years earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why would somebody want to go to Detroit at that point in time?
That's bad.
Right? But I didn't go there for the city. I went there to play football. I went there to try to change the culture.
So Glover, I guess to piggyback off of that, those
are the type of guys that you got to find. They're hard to find, but they're out there. They're just hard to find.
Is this a Lions winning culture that changes that mentality for players coming to Detroit, or is it Detroit as a whole that it's got that view from the outside? I mean, I live in Michigan. I go to Detroit all the time. I understand the city. But is this a culture thing, not so much in the house of Allen Park, but is it a culture thing of if we start picking up wins, that you're going to see more players want to come to Detroit because of this culture that Campbell and Holmes, are building within Allen Park that is starting to spread like wildfire and catching some national media for once? What do you think about that?
I think it's a mixture of both. I think you got to have a good program, but I think the city, the way it's viewed nationally, like the people in Detroit, the business people, the money makers, the marketers, they got to market Detroit different nationally. Because when you're from Michigan, you understand what it's like to be a Michigander, whatever you want to call
Michigander.
it. Michigander. You understand what that's like. You take pride in that. When you're not from Michigan, you don't hear anything about any other city really in Michigan than Detroit. You don't really hear a lot about Ann Arbor unless you're watching the Michigan Wolverines. You don't hear anything about Flint unless it's the water crisis, right? Like, what do you hear positive about any other city in Michigan? You don't.
It's pretty much
right.
Other than the DeVosses in Grand Rapids, because they have some connections in politics, you don't hear anything.
Right, but so that's what I'm saying. Nationally, if you're not in politics, you don't even hear about it. I don't even know who that is. You don't know, right? So nationally, all you hear about is Detroit, and then you hear about the negative things of Detroit: bankruptcy, murders, crime, like not a great, like those are the things that you hear about when you hear about Detroit.
Exactly.
So if you're a young football player, you don't know a lot of positive things about Detroit. So when you hear, and as a football team, they haven't been great lately, right? So as a player, when you hear Detroit wants to draft you, you're like, oh, bro, I don't want to go to Detroit. It's not safe out there. They suck. Like, I don't want to go to Detroit, right? Aiden Hutchinson wants to come to Detroit because he's from there. He understands. He's been there. He knows. But I'm talking from a national standpoint. People that don't have a background in Michigan, they'll want to go to Dallas. They talk about Dallas all the time. They want to go to Miami. They talk about that all the time. They want to go to LA. They talk about that all the time. They talk about the great things about those places. Those places got bad place areas too.
Exactly.
They talk about Houston. They talk about Houston all the time. They talk about Atlanta. That's a fun city. I'm a young guy. I got some money. I want to go to Atlanta.
Exactly.
Nobody talks about going to Detroit.
And then Quinn Cook asks, we kind of covered the DC and Glenn turning the ship around, but the thoughts on St. Brown and Jamison Williams?
I think you look at Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's one of those guys. That's what I'm talking about. And I don't say this just because we had the same number, but he's a 4th-round draft pick. He's drafted number 112. I was drafted number 112, but he has a chip on his shoulder, right? He's a good football player. He is not what the league nationally would call a superstar, but he's a really, really, really good football player. He understands the game. He works really hard. He's like one of those guys that I'm saying the Lions need to find to bring in for a cornerback or
exactly. I knew that's where you were going with this statement there. I just felt it.
That type of guy that loves to play, got a chip on his shoulder, had to fight to earn everything that he got in this league. He's a 4th-round draft pick. He wasn't a 1st-rounder. He just loves to play the game.
Yep.
So Glover, for all of the fans out there that will see this, what was your experience in Detroit? So
I had a great time in Detroit.
There's a lot of negativity that surrounds Detroit, but I think once you get there and the people that know Detroit well enough and the outer limits of Detroit, it's a phenomenal city. It's a thriving city. It's a changing city.
Yeah,
what was your experience?
It's changed a lot.
Can I piggyback on? And as me being Canadian, did you ever go across the border? I always wonder.
No, I never made it across the border, but I stood at the river and looked across. I never actually went across, but I would say Detroit changed a lot. Even in my time there, it changed a lot. Dan Gilbert came out. He bought a lot of different things. He changed downtown. They made downtown safer, probably one of the safest areas out there, right? So they got a lot of cool things going on downtown. Right now it's winter time, so I know they got the skating rink lit up, beautiful. The lights, like making it really, 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 really pretty. But I had a great time in Detroit. But when people ask me about Detroit, I tell people I had a great time. I lived in Troy. I'm not gonna lie. I lived in Troy for the first 5 years that I was there. And then I moved to Birmingham the last year that I was there. Which is not a very far move. But I went out there to go to work. I didn't go out there to party or to live what America thinks is an NFL life. I went out there to go to work. So I don't know what the nightlife is like in Detroit. I didn't do that. I don't know what a lot of those other things are like in Detroit. I didn't do that. But I do know that the fans, the people, the city, the hard work and the culture, that's Detroit. I didn't experience the crime. I don't think I had any crime happen to me the whole time I was in Detroit. Nobody ever broke into my vehicle. Nobody ever tried to rob me. Nobody ever, like, every interaction that I had with a fan in Detroit was amazing. If I was out at dinner, it was amazing. So I don't have any bad things to say about Detroit. Hence why I still have love for Detroit and the fans to this day. So I do the podcast for the Detroit to this day because I had a good time in Detroit. Detroit changed my life.
That's awesome to hear. I don't have much more to say other than if there's any, charitable causes, your podcast, I listen to Believe. If there's anything you'd like to plug while you're here, and then if anybody else on the panel has questions for Glover, I don't know how much time we have left, but that's all I had. Glover, you've been a very special person in my life watching Lions football, so thank you for coming on today. I'm new to this whole thing, so thanks for answering my questions. You've been an absolute blast. That's all I have. The rest is on you guys.
Well, Glover, you said everything right on the money, man. Detroit is a rising city, man. And seeing that the fans, seeing that we're very loyal, we're very respectful, we care, and we want to win just as much as you guys do. And we believe in the future of the city, and not only we believe in the future of the city, but we believe in the future of the franchise because we need more players like Aiden that will, drive other players to say, okay, I want to come here, I want to play here, and want to bring a championship here. And it's not enough players out there that want to be here, but we need to rise that up a lot more because the way you spoke on that just really tells us that we need more hard workers and more people that really want to come here and help and, rise us to the top, rise us to the highest occasion. So, thank you, GQ, for, letting it be known that Detroit is a place that you got to come and bring that hard work and bring that grit to, because the Pistons show it, why not the Lions? They can show it too. So when wearing that uniform and when you put on that helmet, you go to work, you grit, you grind, and you show it, and the city will be behind you. So that's what really emphasizes what we are and what we will be, down the line in the future.
Right. That's exactly what Detroit is. Hard work, grind it out. And the team has to mimic that.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to finish off with thank you so much for coming on. Everybody, please subscribe to this YouTube channel. You can watch it on your TV if you subscribe to the Detroit Lions News Show. I love watching it. I rewatch the show on my big screen. It's wonderful. I always take my kids to Detroit Lions training camp, and man, I just watch you, and I coach. Like, I love Jim Caldwell. I think they did him wrong. I coach a lot like Jim Caldwell, and it was an honor for you to be on our show here. God bless you. Sam, if you want to say something, then Jeremy can finish off, and then we'll finish off with GQ to turn it off, and we'll end the broadcast.
Yeah, I mean, it's, as I said before we even started this, it was surreal to be on a show with a guy I grew up, I mean, still I watch highlights of those games, and I grew up watching. So these are the teams that got me into football and getting me into doing what I'm doing right now and pursuing this. So I want to, thank all of you for the opportunity to be here. Go check out the Forward Down the Field podcast. My co-host Ben was texting me throughout this, would have loved to be here, but driving home from the Lions game, is lucky enough to be there. But yeah, GQ, this was awesome. Thank you, and we'd love to get you on our show sometime. But for now, this is great, and you guys should all follow the Detroit Lions news show as well, because Darcy's constantly putting together great stuff to watch.
Jeremy.
All right. I want to apologize to a lot of the commenters because some of the comments, the questions that were asked, they didn't have a simple answer. So Glover Quin had to go into detail, and I get that because that's what he is. He's a detail-oriented guy. That's what I saw when he played here. He played with passion. He played with heart. He actually wanted to be here until he realized the coaching staff didn't want him to be here. And I still don't get that move at all, because if he'd have been here, a lot more players would have been a lot better off. But like I said, I want to thank everybody for watching. I want to thank everybody for listening. There's some that will listen to it rather than watch it because they're driving down the road. I saw one guy said he was truck driving tonight after watching the game. So kudos to those that keep America moving, and that's the truck drivers. They get all that. Kudos to the people that break their back every day. Thank you. And the thing that I like to close with every show is try every day to be a better person than you were the day before, because it's the only way to make the world a better place. It starts from within yourself.
Okay, GQ, finish her off, and then we'll sign off on our sixth edition of the Detroit Lions News Show. Please subscribe.
Man, I appreciate you guys having me on, man. I mean, I think doing the Detroit Lions Show, the fans out there are passionate, one of a kind. And so appreciate the work that you guys doing. Appreciate you guys having me on. I do Believe in Lions podcast on the Believe Network with my co-host Jack Kavanaugh, who's actually from Canada as well. And we talk pre-game, post-game. We do a preview show some point in the week before the next game, and then we talk today already after the game. But I just want to say, like, Detroit is a great city, man. I got love for Detroit. Something about the people out there that I just loved. So thank you for always rocking with me. I try to rock with you guys. Enjoy the holidays. And go Detroit Lions, man. Let's make a stretch run. We got 4 games to go to do something incredible. Be one of the first teams or the only team to start 1-6 and make it to the playoffs. I started 1-6 with the Lions back in 2015.
Mm-hmm.
And we were 1 game from possibly making the playoffs, and it was the Hail Mary game that we had Green Bay beat the entire game.
Richard Rodgers. Jeez.
And they catch a Hail Mary.
That was a tough one. I ran in my closet and cried.
Yeah, we lose that game because I truly believe if we win that game, we go to St. Louis and we beat the Rams the next week and give us a chance. But by losing that game, then we go to St. Louis and we lose, and our season's over with. So this team right here, you could be one of the first teams, maybe the first team, only team to start 1-6 and make the playoffs. You have what it takes. You got the staff. You got the players. You're healthy now. You're playing really well. You're confident. Let's make a run. Let's support these guys. Let's get behind these guys. Let's continue to show up and go Detroit.
See, there was another upstart team that didn't quite start like this, but they had a bad record. I think they were 2-6 at the time, and they went on all the way to the Super Bowl and win it, and that was the 1999 Kurt Warner-led Rams.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you so much, Glover.
Thank you again.
It's been incredible.
Go for it.
I was just saying thank you again. It's been an incredible show. Thanks for all the love for Michigan and Detroit. I know that the listeners and the fans out there hearing that, it touches their heart hearing that from a former player that meant so much to them too. So, Darcy, I'll leave it with you.
And there we have the 6th edition of the Detroit Lions News Show. Please subscribe to every one of these podcasters. I'm sure they would appreciate it. Mike, take it away. Woo! Dog, one pride, baby.
One pride.
One pride, baby.
Mike is out, so I will probably end the podcast because I don't see him in here. That being said, thank you for watching. It's been a great show. I appreciate all the guests we had. Mark Shmidt, especially Glover Quin, Sam, Chicken Nugget King, Will Rock, and Coach Darcy and myself will always be leading the show. Thank you for joining us and watching the Detroit Lions News Podcast.